carry this. 2-chlorobenzonitrile.
2-chlorobenzonitrile?
Yes.
Do we have that? 2-chlorobenzonitrile?
2-chlorobenzonitrile.
2-chlorobenzonitrile.
Benzonitrile, I doubt it.
What about bromocyclopentane?
Bromocyclopentane.
Yes.
Bromocyclopentane.
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 I've been fascinated by psychoactive drugs my whole life. I love to study their chemistry and impact on society. And my work has allowed me to investigate extraordinary substances around the world. Yet there are still mysteries that remain. Through a mechanistic study of alpha-hydroxyimine rearrangements, a chemist discovered a new anesthetic that has found use as a treatment for depression and as a tool for induction of visionary experience. This is the story of ketamine.
The realms.
Isolated in the desert of mountain air resides an expert on the qualitative effects of dissociative anesthetics, my old friend, Timothy Wiley.
I probably knew what it was all about when I did it. I have no idea now.
This is done under the influence of ketamine.
This would be, yes.
Timothy told me he'd been sick and wasn't well enough to meet, but when I said we'd be talking about ketamine, he quickly changed his mind.
It's very good to see you.
All right. You just beat the weather, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I was last here in April 2015. It's good to be back.
Good to have you back. Did you bring the drone?
The drone, yes, we have the drone.
Whoa.
Timothy Wiley is an artist, writer, and architect, best known for his role in founding a controversial religion called the Process Church, and his life has been a continuous quest to understand the mysteries of his own consciousness.
You were more or less the only person that I could find who is a vocal proponent of PCP.
Yeah.
You were the only person who was willing to say that it was a good drug. But I could tell even then that your true love was ketamine.
Well, in a sense, ketamine is a kind of kissing cousin, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Of PCP. And much more manageable.
For someone that has never used ketamine, has never heard of ketamine, doesn't really know anything at all about it, how would you describe this substance?
Well, the first thing is, how interested would you have to be? It's a dissociative anesthetic, that's the first thing to remember. And unlike most anesthetics, ketamine as well as PCP don't affect the breathing system, which is why they're so convenient.
But one thing that stands out to me about the dissociatives that makes them different from other classes of drugs is they're not rewarding in the same way as amphetamine is.
Well, they don't give a standard reward.
Right.
I mean, you take cocaine, you can be pretty sure you're going to get a cocaine high. Take ketamine, you're never quite sure what you're going to get. It's really very interesting. Certainly the most interesting substance I've done.
In 1961, a chemist named Calvin Stevens serendipitously discovered ketamine, but didn't know exactly what he'd found until the therapeutic potential of the molecule was recognized by the pharmaceutical company Parke-Davis. Clinical researchers found that ketamine possessed most of PCP's therapeutic advantages, with relatively few adverse effects.
I used to say, you have to do K at least 500 times before you even start to understand it. I mean, if you take LSD, there's no doubt that that's a psychedelic. But ketamine is more subtle than that.
And what do you mean by understand ketamine? What happens after 500 doses? What sort of understanding do you gain?
Well, firstly, you know how to work with it. I mean, obviously, in the psychedelic world, there are people who just do psychedelics because it's such fun. And there are other people who kind of like to explore how to work with them, you know, is it good for this, is it good for that? So I remember I did, I think 140 with John Lilly once.
Wow. How did you meet John Lilly?
My girlfriend was a friend of his wife, and also because I was into dolphins at that point. And the next thing I knew, we were both in the water. And I could hear him, you know, he said, this wonderful phrase, sinner sees and you won't have need. Sinner sees, sinner sees, sinner sees.
John Lilly was a brilliant scientific researcher, best known for inventing the sensory deprivation tank and for his work attempting to teach dolphins the English language.
In the province of the mind, there are no limits. However, in the province of the body, there are definite limits not to be transcended.
From his sound room, Lilly listens to a researcher's effort to teach man sounds to a dolphin. Speaking unnaturally through its blowholes, the dolphin finds vowels easy.
He was also one of the first ketamine users to develop a problematic dependence on the drug.
Do you know John Lilly's work on that? They kind of grade.
Its dose-response curve?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. I love it.
Yeah.
For Lilly, 150 milligrams represented a realm he called the network of creation.
That evening, I took 150 milligrams of ketamine, and suddenly, the Earth Coincidence Control Office removed my penis and handed it to me. And I screamed in terror. My wife, Tony, came running in from the bedroom, and she said, it's still attached.
Right. And thank you very much for being with us.
So I think John was going up to about 200, wasn't he, in that curve of his? 250 or something? He said he gets extraterrestrial at that point.
Yes. How would you describe your high-dose experiences and what space you enter?
I've never really been a high-dose guy, to tell you the truth. They haven't interested me as much as the lower doses. I've known people who've been on flying saucers with ketamine. Now, the question is, were they really on a flying saucer, or were they on a flying saucer in their imagination? I don't know the answer to that. I've not been on a flying saucer. I've seen them. I mean, that's always an issue with psychedelics, you know, as I say. And I guess that's why we do them, you know, is to find out what is real. Angels are real, you know, they just live in a different dimension. And, you know, they're with us and they care for us, and, you know, one can get to a state where one can be with them.
I don't think I've ever had an experience with angels before.
Well, let's see if we can make that happen. Oh, blessings to this little trip.
One thing that keeps coming up in my study of dissociatives is this lack of a framework, lack of a history, lack of a role model. I guess one reason that I like talking to you about all of these things is because there is no group that you can point to and say, they will explain the ketamine.
Right.
If anything exists, the closest thing to it is someone like you.
I never make such a claim. It doesn't have a history.
Yes.
It makes it so fascinating because one's not having to deal with, you know, all these sort of psychic overlays that come with, you know, mushrooms and peyote and stuff.
Right.
Isn't it kind of better to come up with one's own understanding of these things?
It's very rare that you get a blank slate like that with a plant.
Yes, it certainly is. I'm feeling fascinated. I would like a slug of my water.
Do you feel it?
No,
You don't?
not much.
Oh, wow. Oh, cool. In some sense, I'm glad to hear that.
I wouldn't mind doing a little more just to see if I'm missing something. I'm You know, I'm as cogent as I think I am normally.
I feel concerned about you doing more.
I'm 3 times as old as you. Let's see if we can meet the angel.
How many bottles of ketamine would you say you've done?
Hard to say. I make a point of never going after it. It comes to me when the angels feel I need to do it or have a reason to do it. So I remember I'd been working with an angel for Georgia, and she wanted the experience of what it's like to be in the body. It was a time when I was in my sort of mid-40s and starting to kind of question my sexuality. I've always been fairly male. I'd started wearing women's clothes, right? So, you know, that was basically the source of my doing drag. You know.
Wow.
It was her.
So you were wearing women's clothing because the angel had inhabited you?
Yes, the angel wanted the experience. And she's a female, she's a girl, you know. But we've established such a close relationship now, we don't have to do that.
You don't have to wear
No.
clothing for the angel?
No.
No, I mean, it's a very complicated story. I'm trying to assemble what I understand of your life. So if you had to tell your life story in 2 minutes. You were an architect. You were born in England.
1940. When I was born in a war, my first memories were bombs dropping in my head. And that so terrified me, so horrified me. Yeah. Although I didn't have this memory until I was in my 20s, when I first started doing LSD. Acid revealed how screwed up I was. And ketamine was, God bless her, what made it better. And then, of course, once one starts on that investigation, all sorts of stuff comes up. I mean, depression itself, whether it's a biological condition or whether it's a psychological condition, I don't know which of those K is hitting. It's pretty clear, I think, to anybody who does ketamine seriously. I mean, you completely lose any fear of death because you know there is no death. You just go on, you know.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Hamilton.
Raquel Bennett, come on in. I'm glad you're here. I was experiencing episodes of recurrent and debilitating depression. I wanted to kill myself. I couldn't stand it. It was so bad. I had tried extensive psychotherapy, and I had taken a variety of conventional oral medications. And they worked somewhat, but I still had terrible trouble with episodes of depression. I wandered into having an experience of ketamine. Suddenly, I had the experience that someone had taken a giant golden key. This key was stuck in my ear, that the key turned and clicked on my brain. I became obsessed with the question of what is this? What happened to me? And does it do that thing to other people? That started my 15-year-long obsession with understanding this tool and how to use it.
And what do patients generally say when you suggest ketamine?
Some people are desperate because their other treatment options haven't worked well. And some people are curious because it's psychoactive. Some people get low-dose ketamine infusions, usually administered by IV. Using this approach is specifically designed to be sub-psychedelic, and it works pretty well for people who are having severe and refractory depression, but some folks need a higher dose. In ketamine-facilitated psychotherapy, we're using the ketamine to help people have disinhibition, more relaxation and more ease in talking about material that's difficult for them to get to otherwise. There's yet another approach to working with ketamine, and that is mystical ketamine or psychedelic ketamine, where the clinician has the intention of inducing or inviting psychedelic experience on purpose. And the idea is that the visions that people have are meaningful and can be interpreted like dreams, and that may add something to the antidepressant effect.
The pharmaceutical industry doesn't synthesize ketamine for the purpose of inducing visionary experiences, but for medical procedures. Because it's considered the most widely used anesthetic in the world, ketamine is manufactured by the ton in China and India and used to formulate medications that supply the international market. But the work conducted by these manufacturing facilities is a trade secret, and the only knowledge of how ketamine is synthesized comes from deliberately opaque patent literature or academic labs that generally report low yields.
I know how ketamine is produced on a small laboratory scale, but as far as I know, no one has ever been to an industrial scale pharmaceutical ketamine laboratory and documented the entire synthesis from start to finish, or any part of it. So my hope is to go to India and document exactly how ketamine is manufactured.
Sounds a great idea. I wish you luck. I'd love to come with you.
India is one of the world's largest producers of generic pharmaceutical medications and has long been regarded as a hub for the industrial production of ketamine. Though ketamine has the reputation of a drug that's either used in clubs or veterinary clinics, the majority of the world's supply is destined for human use in hospitals.
I use ketamine as a spice. In the routine, I can't use ketamine as the main thing. So I use it as a spice. As in, I will add the flavor of that, get the best out of it. But if you put too much, you might spoil the dish. So it's a very delicate thing that if you use it more, you might not be happy with the outcome.
Did you have any visions or hallucinations?
He's saying he's fine, except that he wants to pee.
Do you have any advice on how I might find a pharmaceutical company that would allow me to film the synthesis?
I'm sorry, I have to take that. Huh? Hello?
When you give ketamine, you dissociate completely. So your subconscious mind starts talking. There's a lot of delusions that happen with ketamine. Hallucinations, sexual fantasies.
What kind of fantasies?
We try and avoid men around the females too much because they start hallucinating that maybe you've touched her inappropriately. That can lead to medico-legal problems.
Sounds tricky.
Yes. I've been told by patients that the high that they get with ketamine is better than alcohol or drugs. If they've actually called me, "Doc, do you think we can procure a little ketamine?" It's like, no. That high that you get with ketamine takes you into a different plane. That is why you use it in a sub-anesthetic dose. It's a good analgesic. It reduces the requirements of all other agents. You don't need to give too much, so they recover faster. And they maintain their reflexes very well with ketamine and not with propofol. So when you combine the two, you're in a good plane.
Have you ever been to a ketamine lab?
In India, psychiatric treatment of mental illness is relatively uncommon, but there are still a small number of doctors using ketamine to treat depression that's unresponsive to other medications.
आता तुम्हाला केव्हापासून त्रास आहे?
3 महिने झाले.
She is not feeling well since last 3 months. नाही का हात पकड. नाही का पट्टा दे.
दुखते काका?
नाही थोडा 2 मिनिटं. So we gave about 0.5 ml in a 500 ml of normal saline. Period of about 45 minutes to 1 hour. See?
No one is exactly sure how ketamine works to fight depression, but its therapeutic effect is rapid and reliable. Proposed mechanisms include increased expression of BDNF in the hippocampus, enhanced synaptic transmission mediated by the protein mTOR, and AMPA activation via the metabolite hydroxynorketamine.
This is a nice survey of pretty much every antidepressant: desvenlafaxine, escitalopram, vilazodone, which is fluoxetine, which is Prozac. This is actually an opioid antidepressant, tianeptine. mirtazapine. Almost every imaginable pharmacology has been explored as a treatment for depression. And ketamine is interesting because it's not in any of these groups. It's a glutamatergic drug that works via the NMDA receptor, and that is not the mechanism of any currently approved treatment for depression.
She's saying that she's feeling a little bit better. She's saying the God has come in form of you.
Really?
Till now, in psychiatry, there was no drug which would act so fast and which would save lives so fast and which have so immediate effect. You know, so ketamine is a life-saving drug according to me.
It's medically useful. I think a lot of people who are depressed who are not necessarily physiologically depressed, people die from lack of vision. So I think ketamine pushes you back up. Maybe just the understanding that there's a whole world out there. Would work out. Nothing to be depressed about.
Right now, I feel like I'm in an ancient Persian bookstore.
What is your role in this bookstore?
My role is investigatory.
Okay. We descend into the underworld.
Wow. The underworld. The darkness.
And how would you like to proceed with your investigation?
I would like to pull a tome off the shelf, blow some dust off of it, and open it up and find information.
Okay, well, now, the metaphors aside, how would you realize this?
It's a good question.
Hi, is this Troika Pharmaceuticals?
Yes.
And you manufacture ketamine?
Ketamine, yes.
You do?
We developed this product in our own laboratory.
Although none of the doctors I spoke with could help me find a pharmaceutical manufacturer, I noticed that all of them were using ketamine that came from a company called Troika. I called Troika to ask if they'd allow me to film the total synthesis of ketamine, and was astonished when they said yes. I got on a plane to Ahmedabad with high hopes, and when I arrived at Troika, I knew I was finally going to see the synthesis I'd been waiting for.
I see that you manufacture a number of anesthetic drugs like midazolam, propofol, fentanyl.
Yes.
And ketamine.
Topical solution for diclofenac sodium.
And ketamine.
Ketamine, yes. Ketamine, midazolam, and diclofenac sodium.
Where are these drugs actually being synthesized?
We have our own R&D lab, research and development laboratory.
Rajneesh Mitra told me an analytical chemist named Hemant Jadhav would be able to help me understand the manufacture of ketamine.
And do you have a ketamine sample that we could...
Ketamine?
Yes, a sample of ketamine.
No, cadmium is not analyzed. Cadmium.
No, not cadmium, ketamine, hydrochloride.
Okay, ketamine hydrochloride.
Yes.
Yeah, ketamine hydrochloride. Now the analysis of ketamine hydrochloride is not going on.
Dr. Jadhav said he did have a pH meter he wanted to show me, and at that moment I began to wonder if I traveled 8,000 miles to measure the pH of a ketamine solution.
Is 6.90 first calibration and 4.70 this is for the product.
As you would expect.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with how ketamine is synthesized?
Ketamine is not synthesized over here. Manufacturing of ketamine is in Dehradun plant only.
Are there people in this lab that are familiar with the synthesis of ketamine?
Synthesis, no one from this lab will explain you. Another one guy is there. He will explain you about the synthesis.
I was relieved when he told me there was a synthetic organic chemist named Rajiv Sharma who would be able to answer my questions.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, Rajiv Sharma.
Hi, I'm Hamilton. So you do synthesis?
No, we are not synthesizing the active molecule. We are manufacturing the ketamine injection, ketamine hydrochloride injection.
I see.
Yeah, I can provide you the brief for how that Ketamax injection is prepared from the ketamine hydrochloride.
This lab actually does not work with ketamine. They don't formulate ketamine here. They don't even do quality control for ketamine here. It seems as if this lab is just not a place we should have visited.
There's nothing as a bad trip. It's just learning.
It had become clear that the secrets of industrial ketamine manufacturing would not be revealed on this trip, and so I'd have to investigate the synthesis on my own terms.
You carry this product? 2-chlorobenzonitrile.
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 I doubt very much.
What about bromocyclopentane?
Bromocyclopentane. Bromocyclopentane. Bromocyclopentane.
Bromocyclopentane.
Bromocyclopentane.
Bromocyclopentane. You make a Grignard reagent with bromocyclopentane and magnesium.
How many times have you attempted this?
20, 30 times at least.
Were you surprised that I wasn't able to film the synthesis in India?
It's just a shame because I would have liked to know the method because I still want to optimize that final step, but I'll just have to do it my way.
I still wanted to see a 2-keto aryl cyclohexylamine being synthesized, and so I went to visit my friend, Jason Wallach. In order to demonstrate the chemistry, we chose to prepare a structurally related ketamine derivative called deschloroketamine, which is not a controlled substance. Pulverized magnesium turnings are suspended in THF with iodine crystals. Bromocyclopentane is added dropwise, forming the Grignard reagent cyclopentyl magnesium bromide in an exothermic reaction.
A great way of making carbon-carbon bonds.
Benzonitrile is added to the reaction mix dropwise.
Very nice smell.
Yeah, it really does smell like almonds.
The cyclopentyl magnesium bromide acts as a carbanion, attacking the electrophilic nitrile carbon.
And this produces an imine, which is then hydrolyzed to a ketone.
A flask is charged with ether, followed by aluminum chloride, the cyclopentyl phenyl ketone, and a dropwise addition of elemental bromine. A Lewis adduct stabilizes the enol tautomer, which undergoes an SN2 reaction, attacking bromine to form the bromocyclopentyl phenyl ketone.
Yeah, the next step's a nucleophilic substitution reaction with hydroxides. And the hydroxide is going to be the source of our alcohol.
The bromocyclopentyl phenyl ketone is dissolved in isopropanol with a 2 molar excess of aqueous potassium hydroxide. In an SN1 reaction, the bromine acts as a leaving group, and the tertiary carbocation is attacked by nucleophilic hydroxide ions, yielding the hydroxycyclopentyl phenyl ketone.
This is the alcohol product.
The hydroxycyclopentyl phenyl ketone is dissolved in methanol with a dash of 3 angstrom molecular sieves, followed by a solution of methylamine in THF.
Methylamine.
Lone pair electrons on the nitrogen attack the carbonyl, forming a hemiaminal, which collapses after intramolecular proton transfer and elimination of water to yield an imine that's isolated.
Here's the evaporated imine. Now we're just going to dissolve it in dichlorobenzene.
The imine solution is transferred into a microwave reactor for 5 hours at 145 degrees Celsius.
And you end up with the structure rearranging into beta-keto aryl cyclohexylamine.
The defining feature of this synthesis is a thermal alpha-hydroxy-imine rearrangement. The lone pair on the imine nitrogen abstracts a hydroxyl proton, and electrons from the oxygen flow into a pi bond, while a ring carbon sigma bond migrates to the imine carbon, and electrons from the imine pi bond flow into the nitrogen, expanding the ring to afford the thermodynamically favored isomeric product deschloroketamine in a single step.
And that last step it's a very strange reaction. It's not something that's taught in general organic chemistry.
The crude deschloroketamine freebase is purified by a column chromatography, and the identity is confirmed with ASAP-MS.
Much easier to make PCP, and it's much more potent.
Well, that was one reason I wanted to go to India to observe this, is because the chemistry is notoriously problematic, and I was hoping that in the industrial synthesis there might be some trick, some little...
There must be a trick.
There are no failures. It's just learning.
What I'd like to do is I'd like to sit down and we could all get high.
But then we'll turn into a giant, crazy ketamine computer.
Let's see what happens.
I am telling you, we will become a computer.
It sounds awfully authoritarian. You might be right.
It's an educated guess.
And I remember in a group of about 14 people, all doing ketamine together. Everybody was just like a little robot. Weird.
I feel like an action figure. That it could be posed as would be required to show the season's hottest looks.
You do look like an action figure. Oh, whoops.
There's so many paradoxes with dissociatives.
Yes.
They're so strange. I don't know what to make of them.
That's a very good place to start. Don't you think?
Not to have any preconceived...
Absolutely, to come in completely clean. Yeah.
Some patients find this extremely interesting. Some patients find it enjoyable. Some patients find this to be quite distressing. And again, this is a matter of preparation.
How do you prepare them?
How do you prepare someone for something as strange as that? People call me the conservative queen of ketamine because I love ketamine and I love talking about ketamine, but I actually have a somewhat conservative point of view about when it should be used. This is a very powerful tool. I really think that people need to be using this tool in a supervised setting. That said, I think it's really interesting and I think we don't fully understand all of the potential of this particular medicine.
I wrote this massive review article about dissociative anesthetics and their use non-medically, and ultimately arrived in a completely ambivalent place about the dangers of ketamine. It's clear that there are some, it's clear that there are also therapeutic effects. It's clear that under certain circumstances it can be neurotoxic, and it's clear that under other circumstances it can be neuroprotective. But I'm still interested in dissociatives, so why not give it a shot?
You can't approach psychedelics with the idea of failure, or bad trips. There's such thing as a bad trip. A bad trip is a trip in which one is refusing to deal with whatever the psychedelic is showing you. Bad trips are the most helpful trips. I think I would say, you gotta try it, man. It's very difficult to describe.
In a psychiatrist's home office, I was administered 120 milligrams of ketamine via IM injection, a dose lower than what's used for anesthesia, but higher than what's typically used for treatment of depression.
537, 120 milligrams intramuscular. I can already feel it a little bit now. And I can hear a ringing in my ears. A strange ringing sensation. And now it has very much begun. It's very much begun. I'm drifting into a place that is sweaty and warm and strange and beautiful. Smells like barbecue, sort of. Notions of mesquite, notions of peyote, notions of these journeys, these difficulties, these processes, these experiences, these attempts to understand. What?
What? What? What? What?
The realms, the realms, the realms. What are the realms? Are there other people going around talking about realms? What does it mean? I don't know. I have no idea. There's a cabal of salvia leaves, a cabal of my own consciousness, a cabal of everything. I don't get it. I do not understand one bit of it. I want to. This chemical, it starts to interfere with my glutamate, and I start to tile my reality and my consciousness. Consciousness. I see fidget spinners, braids, I see mint leaves, Haribo gummies. Did anyone meet Calvin Stevens? What was Calvin Stevens' diet like? Ketamine. You know, there's some strange, very, very strange psychological manipulations that take place. John Lilly called it the creation network. It comes from a very computerized, quantized, bizarre crystal zone.
You know, it's very difficult to describe any psychedelic because we don't have words for, you know, for those sort of conditions that one finds oneself in. So it's why I draw, you know, why I make my drawings, because they're probably more simpatico, more revealing of the nature of K than any words you can come up with.
And what do people generally do with the content of these experiences?
So it's a way of exploring the latent life in everything.
At 120, I started to lose memory of what had happened, and it became more fragmented and sort of disjointed, incoherent. It didn't have the same clarity as the lower doses.
You might have to be a little bit more open than you are. You know, when you're trained as a scientist.
This is the most amazing house.
It's sweet of you to say that. I mean, the thing is, everything is really rather disgusting, and I'm rather ashamed, I'm afraid.
No.
It's a lovely house, but it's in a state of dilapidation, put it that way. Probably a bit like me.
Your kitten is adorable.
Oh, that's a little one. How little thin. The will to live is extraordinary. I think he is the sole survivor of a 7 litter, of which the other 6 have all died in mysterious circumstances. I live alongside the cats, is the way I see it. They have kittens, they provide food for eagles and predators around. So sometimes there'll be 10, 12, 15 cats, and then a week later there'll be 2 or 3 cats. We let life take its course. And they kind of take over. They've kind of taken over in a way.
Do you still feel nothing?
Oh, no. I mean, I've got the wobbly aspect of me. No. I mean, ketamine for me is not something I move around a lot. I like to meditate, talk to angels, and that's the way I do things.
There's so many amazing components to your life. I can't even start to begin to assemble them to understand who you are.
Isn't that what we're here to do? To grapple with a fundamental question. Who are we, you know? I am a human being, but my heritage is an angel. It's very uncomfortable to be an angel in a human body. You feel incredibly different from everybody. So you take psychedelics, you try to figure out who you are, how you got here, what's going on. And we come to realize, I mean, we're all eternal beings. I mean, that, believe me, when you die, you just go on. You know. This is just an interlude. I've done my bit. God, I would be so happy to fucking leave this planet. Die, you know? I'd love to die. I really would. But I don't think I'm gonna. I don't think I'm able. So maybe we'll do another drug in 3 years or 2 years.
I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love Timothy Wiley. I want him to be alive forever. I want him to be a shining beacon of strangeness in the desert that I can visit and talk to. People like Timothy Wiley are precious, must be cherished, because one day you wake up and Timothy Wiley isn't there anymore.
Hello. The night after our meeting, I received a phone call from Timothy. He told me he had a new lease on life and had decided to get married. I was astonished by his change in mood and wished him well. But when I called him the following week, he didn't pick up.
Hi, Timothy. This is Hamilton. I'm just calling to check in on you and make sure everything's okay. I've been working on some chemistry experiments that I think you'd find interesting, and I wanted to talk with you about it a little bit. Hi, Timothy. This is Hamilton. Just calling to check in on you and make sure everything is okay. When you get a chance, give me a call back. Bye.
It wasn't until a month later that I received a message saying he'd been hospitalized on a trip to Pennsylvania and had died from heart failure. I was also told that on his deathbed, he'd left me a gift.
I don't believe in life after death, but if we do go somewhere, do you think it's a funny place?
Yes. Of course. Of course. We're all eternal beings. Believe me, when you die, you just go on.